Almost every night when the moon gets big and bright, it's supernatural delight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. Everybody hears things right. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. Dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. We like our fun and we never fight. You can't dance and stay outside. It's a supernatural delight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. We get it almost every night. It's big and bright. It's a supernatural delight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. Dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. Dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like home. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power, just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there. I hear your voice. It's like an angel sighing. I have no choice. I hear your voice. Feels like flying. I close my eyes. Oh God, I think I'm falling out of the sky. I close my eyes. Heaven help me. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power, just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there like a child. You whisper softly to me. You're in control, just like a child. Now I'm dancing, just like a dream. No end and no beginning. You're here with me, it's like a dream. Let the choir sing when you call my name. It's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power, just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there when you call my name. It's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power, just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there, just like a prayer. Your voice can take me there, just like like a muse to me.
You are a mystery,
Just like a dream.
you are not what you seem.
Just like a prayer, no trust your voice can take me there. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees, I wanna take you there. In the midnight hour, I can feel your power. Just like a prayer, you know I'll take you there.
Got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about. You were so excited for me, finally drive up to your house. But today I drove through the suburbs, crying 'cause you weren't around. You're probably with that blonde girl who always made me down. So much older than me, just everything I'm insecure about. But today I drove through the suburbs, 'cause how could I ever love someone else? And I know you aren't perfect, but I never felt this way for no one. Oh, and I just can't imagine how you could be so okay now that I'm gone. I guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me. 'Cause you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. And all my friends are tired, fearing how much I miss you. But I kinda feel sorry for them, they'll never know you the way that I do. Yeah, today I drove through the suburbs, pictured I was driving home to you. And I know you aren't perfect, but I never felt this way for no one. Oh, and I just can't imagine how you could be so okay now that I'm gone. I guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me. 'Cause you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. Red lights, stop signs, I still see your face in the white cars. Front yards, can't drive past the places we used to go to. 'Cause you know I still love you, babe. Ooh. Sidewalks we cross, I still hear your voice in the traffic, laughing over all the noise. God, I'm so through. No, we're through, 'cause you know I still love you, babe. Ooh. And I know you aren't perfect, but I never felt this way for no one. And I just can't imagine how you could be so okay now that I'm gone. Guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me. 'Cause you said forever, now I drive alone past your street.
Good evening. My name is Dolly Duffy, the Executive Director of your Notre Dame Alumni Association and a proud member of the class of 1984. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm standing here on the patio of the beautiful new Corby Hall, While I wish you could all be here with me on campus this evening, I'm so glad you've tuned in to celebrate the anniversary of your graduation and to reminisce about the many things that makes Notre Dame so special to all of us. Of course, nothing can replace a trip to the grotto or a hug from an old friend or even a quick stop in to see Murph. But I'm excited about the program we've planned for you this evening. Throughout this broadcast, we'll hear campus updates from university leaders. We'll celebrate lifelong friendships that were formed at Notre Dame more than 60 years ago. We'll catch up with some notable alumni. We'll enjoy student performances and so much more. Tonight, we celebrate not only those classes who are commemorating graduation anniversaries in 2021, but also those who were unable to celebrate with us last summer. From the 50-year club to the class of 2016 and all those celebrating classes in between, congratulations on this anniversary of your graduation from Notre Dame. I also want to especially congratulate and thank the classes of 1970 and 1971 who are celebrating their induction into the 50-year club. Notre Dame is better and stronger because of all that so many of you have done for this place over the past 5 decades. And before we dive in, I'd be remiss if I didn't first acknowledge the difficulties and hardships that we've all encountered in some way since the outbreak of the pandemic nearly a year and a half ago. It's definitely been a challenging time, but there are many reasons for hope and optimism for the year ahead. And we also remember all of our alumni, friends, parents, roommates, and other members of the Notre Dame family who are no longer with us. We hold them in our hearts and in our prayers, especially those we have lost to COVID-19 and other illnesses these past years. To continue our program, it is my privilege to introduce the 17th president of the University of Notre Dame, Father John Jenkins, who is a member of the class of 1976 and is celebrating his 45th reunion this year.
Warmest welcome to Notre Dame alumni who are participating in our 2021 virtual celebration. I'm extremely sorry that we were not able to welcome you to campus, but I hope that soon you will be able to visit. Know how much we miss you. We thank you for staying connected, and we're grateful for your participation in this virtual event. This gathering is special to me, for it's the 45th anniversary of my class, the class of 1976. Our recent commencement made me think of my graduation 45 years ago, at which Vernon Jordan, the recently deceased civil rights leader, spoke. That week, my group of friends went to Newt Rockney's gravesite in town and took a photo which is framed in my apartment. Those friends have remained friends and have been so supportive of me. I'm sure each of you have similar memories. Although we are remote, let us savor and celebrate those memories, and let me ask God's blessing on each of you. May God bless you and all who are dear to you, particularly your Notre Dame classmates. May He continue to guide you and give you comfort and joy. May Notre Dame, Our Lady, watch over you just as she did from the top of the Golden Dome during your years at Notre Dame. And may God bless you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless, and go Irish.
Thank you, Father John, for your blessing and for being a part of our reunion celebration this evening. My name is Mike Sullivan. I'm a 1990 graduate, a proud Dillon Hall alum, and I'm Senior Director of Alumni Programs here at the Notre Dame Alumni Association. I'm excited to welcome our next guest to the program. One of the best big play receivers in Notre Dame history, he graduated as the school's leading receiver in career yards and touchdowns, and was a second-round draft pick by the Green Bay Packers. From the class of 1996, Derek Mays. Derek, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, for anyone who is watching that doesn't know, you grew up just down the road in Indianapolis. Did you grow up a Notre Dame fan, or how did you end up making your way to South Bend?
I didn't grow up as much a Notre Dame fan, but I did grow up as a Hoosier, and there was a lot of pressure for me when the recruiting process started to stay at home. A lot of folks thought home meant IU or Purdue, and I chose Notre Dame, and I thought that was home for me. And I know it was the best decision I could have made. It gave my mom and my dad an easy commute, 2 hours up the highway. It's a lot shorter now. And just an amazing story, an Indiana story, and proud to be a part of that. 25 years later, just amazing journey, and to be able to look back on all the relationships that I was able to make back there on campus. 25 years now, so many of them still hold strong. Truly a Notre Dame story, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
And we're happy that you're a part of this story as well. Now, of course, you played for Coach Holtz, and everybody that is one of Lou's lads has some quip or story that stands out to them. What's yours?
Well, I have a lot of stories. I don't know too many of them I can repeat online or in public. But if you were to ask Coach Holtz, the one thing that I always remember that he tells everyone is that Derek May should have been a kicker. He kicked around everything. What time did practice start? What time did practice end? When was our curfew? Could we go when we were at a travel destination? Could we go do some sightseeing? So apparently I kicked around a lot of stuff. I was really inquisitive. I asked Coach Holtz a lot of questions. I wanted to learn a lot. I soaked it up like a sponge. And again, 25 years later, just to see that we still have a relationship, we're in business together. And you want to talk about just being a product of your environment. I know I am, certainly from that 4 years that I got to spend at the university.
And those 4 years, contained a lot of big Notre Dame football moments. The game of the century in '93, played in the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl, Fiesta Bowls. Is there a particular memory from your career that really stands out to you?
A lot of memories that stick out. The one that I remember most, that I care to share, I think the most, is the Snow Bowl, my freshman year against Penn State. It was a big game, obviously. I feel like it was our game of the century before the game of the century. But most importantly, it was a tough bout, hard fought. And I think I may have only caught one or two balls, but one catch I did catch was a 3rd and long. Rick Meyer threw it over the middle. It was a sure interception. And I took it away from the linebacker. It might have been Teddy Bruschi at the time. I can't remember. And I had to, because I said, there's no way I'm going to go back to the sideline. Coach Holtz calls a play for me, and it ends up being an interception. But I earned all the respect from my upperclassmen that day, that moment. Reggie Brooks, Jerome Bettis, Rick Meyer, Irv Smith, Demetrius DeBose, God rest his soul, Devon McDonald. I could go on and on and on. All my captains, all those seniors. That was a pivotal point for me because I earned my stripes. And that meant the world to me, to be able to earn the respect of my peers. And moving on in life, I know that always just continued to be my number one challenge in anything that I did. I wanted to be respected among my peers.
So talking about some of those older guys, that's the Snow Bowl's a great memory. I want to talk about a memory that, was, I'm sure, very difficult for players and fans alike. And that's the 93 BC game right after the game of the century. And my question is, there must have been tremendous leadership on that team to be able to handle that devastating loss and then bounce back and play so well in the Cotton Bowl.
It was difficult. You want to talk about a roller coaster of emotions over the course of a month and a half, to go from becoming the number one team in the country to then get knocked off in such a way that we did a week later, to have to hear, the constant back and forth in the media about who's number one, because at the time it was solely based on the voting system. And to know that we were part of history, and why they decided to create a playoff system was because of years like that. Very bittersweet. we have our memories. I can't watch that game over and over and know that kick still goes in. Once again, though, even in defeat, to be able to talk about the game with my teammates years later, to think about the intricate plays that took place to get us where we were, it's an opportunity to win. And then, like you said, just to bounce back and have that whole year culminate with a victory against a really, really difficult Texas A&M Aggie team, to play them 2 years in a row in the Cotton Bowl and beat them twice. That was a feat in itself. So there's a ton of silver linings to take out of that 93 football season. But it will always be remembered by the Boston College upset.
So Derek, when you graduated, of course, you left as the all-time leader in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, but the game has certainly evolved quite a bit since the 90s. What would your numbers look like if you were playing today?
I ask Coach Kelly that question every time I see him. It never fails to come up. Sometimes Ron Powell will be in the audience and I'll ask him the same question and I'll say, seriously, what kind of record numbers would we have been able to have, had we had this in place? I even ask Coach Holtz, whenever I get the chance, because we only threw the ball 14 times a game back when I played. And listen, records were meant to be broken. I think, the game is supposed to evolve. I just happen to be, 10 years, a little too old, and to be able to take advantage of what's out there in the game and the way it's evolved today. But hopefully that just meant that I paved the way, and maybe some of the guys can respect me for that.
So putting football aside for a moment, so your class of 96 celebrating 25 years as an alumnus of this great university. Tell us about a favorite non-football memory from your time at Notre Dame.
Well, one of my favorite non-football memories would be senior year. I'm in philosophy of religion class with none other than my classmate and class senior vice president, Paul Berrettini. And at the time, our senior year, spring of 1996, Paul was probably only 5 people on campus with a laptop. And we pass the laptop back and forth. We sit up in the back of the classroom, pass it back and forth, and play solitaire. And that was our first, online social media gathering. We were perfecting that whole phenomenon right then and there on campus, and no one knew about it.
Fantastic. Now, after you left Notre Dame, you went from one storied program to another as the Packers drafted you in the second round. And then you went on to become one of 44 former Irish players to win a Super Bowl. Tell us a little bit about being a Super Bowl champ.
Well, being a Super Bowl champ was great. I can't take credit for it, but 1/53rd of it. So a lot has to take place. You got to be a little bit lucky. And for me to win that Super Bowl my rookie year was, it was a lot of stars aligned for that kind of thing to happen. But I also, when I think about that, I think about the comrades that I had on that team that I was able to share with at Notre Dame, like Aaron Taylor and Craig Hendricks, Lindsey Knapp, even Dorsey Levens. He takes a little bit of that credit as well, even though he transferred to Georgia Tech. And I never played with him at Notre Dame. We became brothers, just in that same steep tradition that Notre Dame breeds. So I think about that a lot. When I think about the Super Bowls, I think about how blessed I was to go from one story tradition to another, and that's something that you can't control. So if it happens, you really got to take appreciation for it.
And Derek, over the 25 years, obviously a great professional career, but recently you've been very connected back to the university. Tell us a little bit about how you've stayed connected.
Yeah, well, most recently, 2 years ago, I got named to the board of the Notre Dame Monogram Club, and that's been a fantastic honor and an opportunity to help serve our university. As I mentioned, my good friend and classmate back then, and our Vice President, Paul Bertini, he and I have stayed in business together for going on about 18, 20 years now. And most recently entered into with Coach Holtz, proud owners of the Play Like a Champion Today trademark. We built Play Like a Champion investment capital to go out and further invest in all things in and around the Play Like a Champion trademark. And so that's been really a fun time. We were able to launch in conjunction with marijuana. We were able to launch a Play Like a Champion Today wine over St. Patrick's Day back on campus. So that's been really, really awesome to be reassociated with the university, to be able to give back. We've made sure that the proportion of our proceeds are going back to the university. That's just a way that we stay entrenched with the spirit of the university, right? Time, treasure, and talent. And we try to live by that.
Well, that's well said, Derek. Thanks so much for joining us to help celebrate reunion. Congratulations on all your many accomplishments and for your 25th reunion from Notre Dame. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to all the alumni enjoying their anniversaries, whether it's your 25th or your 50th. Go Irish.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Notre Dame Alumni Association reunion panel. We have really genuinely missed you. Let me add my voice to the chorus of those who are disappointed that we missed last year's reunion and are going virtual this year, but we're really excited to welcome you back to campus this fall. It is my privilege now to reflect back on this historic year. It was a year filled with challenges, the dark cloud of the pandemic, racial tensions, and economic dislocation. Yet at the same time, there were many silver linings. And we're here joined by two wonderful colleagues, two vice presidents of the university who were instrumental in leading Notre Dame's response to COVID in particular is what we'll focus on today. And I'm joined by Marion Corr, who is our vice president and general counsel at the university. She is one of the pioneering women, graduated in 1978, and has been back as vice president and general counsel since 2008. And also by Mickey Kidder, who is the new and first vice president of University Enterprises and Events. And Mickey has been with the university in various leadership roles for many years before assuming this new responsibility in the last couple of years. And she is a 2019 MBA grad from Notre Dame as well. One quick disclaimer. We're thrilled that we're able to come to you without masks. One of the miracles of the vaccine, and not only are we all vaccinated, but as you know, we've been able to vaccinate in recent months over 90% of the student body, most of our faculty and staff, and our cases have gone down to 0 per day. It's really been the miracle of science, and we feel really blessed. All of us are vaccinated, so we're pleased to come to you in a safe format, and we are still physically distanced as well. So let's begin with you, Mary Ann. You have been at the epicenter in the leadership circles of all things COVID the last 18 months. You've been a right-hand leader to Father John, and all of the advising and the forecasting of how Notre Dame would be prepared to ready itself for the ups and downs of this last year, and then now to move beyond COVID as we move into this next academic year. Could you say a few words? What have you learned from this past year, and how do you think we're positioned moving forward?
Well, Lou, thank you for that nice introduction. And actually, I mean, you've way exaggerated so kindly my role here this past year. There are many, many more involved than I. It's been challenging. It's been exhilarating. And mostly, though, all kudos, all just respect and admiration and deep thanks for the many people across campus who came together and manned, the testing center, the contact tracing, who called our students, who fed them, who erected tents, who thought up ways that they could be entertained despite some of the many limitations we had. So for me, this has been a year certainly of challenge. And there's been something really exhilarating in that challenge in many ways. But it has been a year when we have seen the Notre Dame family here come together like never before. And it is so emotionally moving for me when I think back over those who kept up their day jobs and yet were volunteering or were pulled out of their regular jobs and assumed completely different roles. It has been just wonderful. And I think that has strengthened us and put us in an even better position as we think about moving forward into the new post-COVID world.
Right. What do you think are some of the learnings that we will carry forward that will make us a different university community, and maybe some things that will permanently change the way we do business at Notre Dame?
Yeah, well, I wish I had a crystal ball, Permanently change what we do in society. A couple of things. One is, right before the pandemic, there were a lot of pundits who were questioning the viability of an in-person residential education. And there was a lot of thinking that, well, maybe why can't we just do everything remotely? If we've learned anything this past year, it's the power of being together. And I think that the strength and the need for in-person instruction has been emphasized. And certainly, here at Notre Dame, we talk not only about what we learn in the classroom, but what we learn from each other in the residence halls and everywhere else. And this desire to be together has certainly been highlighted this past year, which has been great. So I think that in many ways, our residential in-person model has been strengthened and affirmed. But at the same time, we don't want to squander this past year. So I don't have a crystal ball. I would think that some of the lessons, though, of the flexibility of the hybrid learning might help us with students going abroad who have majors that might in the past have prevented them from taking advantage of some of the opportunities. Maybe we can work that out. I know there are a lot of people around campus thinking about that right now.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. And Mickey, you had the unenviable position of coming in to oversee these special events and the bookstore and the Morrison, and it seemed like in your first year in the job, all you did was cancel things.
Yes, a lot.
And it was it called for tremendous flexibility and resilience throughout the process. But you adapted, your team adapted and pivoted in some very creative ways. Can you tell us about, from your perspective, what was this past year like?
Absolutely. And you're right, we canceled a lot. And we not only canceled a lot in terms of quantity, but things that we were really looking forward to. We were supposed to go to Ireland this year. We were supposed to host 2 concerts on campus. We were supposed to host commencement for the class of 2020, reunion, a presidential debate, right? We often forget how quickly this time has passed. We weren't able to do those things, obviously. And the team did rally. And we've worked together for a long time, Lou, over 15 years. And something you constantly remind me is, in times of crisis, or if you start to stray, go back to mission.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that our team was able to do that. And the mission is the students and the men of Holy Cross and the faculty. And in so many ways, the team pivoted to focus on them. And it was a really beautiful way. We changed how we fed them. Marianne mentioned, this is still something that had to be done in really different ways than Notre Dame students have ever dined here before.
Right.
We were able to create areas of community for them. So the lawns that were highlighted in many photos over the past year, that was really fun to create new ways for them to join in community. The lodges that we created. And another really important thing that occurred, we weren't doing any event like we typically would. But one really core to mission as part of our team that some people often forget, funerals, weddings, important sacraments that still happened this past year. And we did it in different ways, but we still did them in ways that focused on the sacrament and the important event for those families, which was really beautiful and a great privilege.
No, you and your team were incredibly resourceful, and as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. Moving more and more activities outdoors and creating the lodges and in very beautiful and creative ways, the students really responded very well. What do you think will be lasting changes? What did you learn this past year that when visitors, alumni, parents, and friends come back to campus this next year, they will notice some learnings, takeaways, differences that we've implemented?
Well, I hope that the outdoors is the overarching most common theme to this. Our team, quite often throughout the past year, when we'd be hustling across campus, we've actually made it an intentional point to say, stop and look around us and take in the beauty and these spiritual guideposts that exist on this campus for us. We tried to really activate that for the students this year. And I hope and am confident that will be something that continues. So when you return for a football game, when you return for a reunion, which will happen again in person, these areas of campus will be activated, and they should be. We have such a beautiful campus with really meaningful places. And so I do think that you will see, and many will see, some of these changes that last in perpetuity and make us better at providing an enhanced experience.
You look at the quads, for example, they've done beautiful grassy knolls.
Right.
And to think that we didn't really utilize them or engage them all these years, and now that's probably one of the greatest pieces of feedback that we've gotten from the students is what you did with the library quad and how you put the lighting up and the stage and fire pits and all that stuff. Do you actually see that continuing?
Oh, yes, that will definitely continue. And that was an example of teamwork at its best. Nick Johnson, a great colleague, his communications team brainstormed one day and came up with that idea. We took it, brought it to action, and I hope amplified it a bit.
I cannot thank you both enough on behalf of everyone at Notre Dame for your leadership over the course of this past year. And I know we're all starting to look forward. What do you see as some of the changes that we are going to have to adapt to in this not just post-COVID world, but post-quasi-COVID world? I know we don't have all the answers yet. We're still trying to work those out, but what can you share with us? Any insights as we move on?
Well, one is just as you alluded to, Lou, we're always operating now in uncertainty, right? And there's so much that I think we took advantage of, took for granted before that now we're just so thrilled. I mean, Mickey gave the example of just taking a minute and looking at the beauty. And I think we take a minute and look around and thank God for the spirit of Notre Dame. But we are going to have to, certainly in the near future, be very adaptable, keep our eyes open, and think again, as I said, the lessons that we're going to have to implement. And there's no rest for the weary. Yeah, we got behind commencement, and now we're very much looking forward to see what sort of lessons can we adapt and implement for the future.
And that's a good point. Commencement was, I thought,
so joyful.
was a cathartic moment for all of us, right? I mean, and for the parents that were back and the family members and our students themselves, it was emotional. There was a spirit of relief in the air that we had made it through the difficulties of this past year, and maybe even a deeper bond that was formed through the adversity. You guys, your team did a phenomenal job with commencement.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And, that example, it was cathartic for everyone. When Jimmy Dunn spoke, when Carla Harris spoke, when Father Jenkins addressed the students, this year in particular, there was a palpable and tangible realization that they were addressing the team and the community on this campus as well. It wasn't just the students.
As one of them, too,
As
that we were
one,
all together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that unity was
Yeah.
really beautiful. I think it's the most exciting thing about the future. I hope we can continue the spirit of Notre Dame in a unified way. We are in this together, and the highs and the lows. And those were the lowest moments when everybody was feeling the effect of COVID in the past year. And I think they will be the highs in the future, that this unity can continue in a sense of community.
Well, again, thank you on behalf of everyone in the Notre Dame family. And again, to all of you, I can't tell you how much we have missed you over the 18 months. I know that many of you want to reconnect with Notre Dame in a more personal, intimate way, but know that we are excited to welcome you back to campus, to be in person, and to be energized by your spirit and your own unique story. So thank you for participating in this session with us today. And to the last two reunion classes, and we're thrilled again to see you back on campus this fall. Take care, God bless, and go Irish.
Now that we've heard from some of our university leaders, let's turn to a story about friendship. We all know that connections we make in our time at Notre Dame can last a lifetime. And my next guests from the class of 1961 have, for more than 60 years, been collectively known as the Rat Pack, a name bestowed on them by a flustered rector at Dillon Hall. About 30 men made up this group in its founding days, and I'm pleased today to welcome four of them: Jim Wareham, Roger McMahon, T.L. Melby, and Ned Grants. And before I ask the first interview question, I have to say that I first met this group at their 50th reunion, just as I was taking over from the legendary Chuck Lennon. And I knew then that they were definitely a force to be reckoned with. They were over on the side at the dinner, and no one in that entire room was having as much fun as they were. So tell me the story behind the name Rat Pack.
Well, first of all, Dolly, this is Jim Wareham. Thank you so much for including us here. I wasn't real happy with the emphasis that you had on 1961. That is a long time ago. I think that the guy that can tell that story the best for the name is probably TL.
Father Bristol was our rector at Dillon Hall, but before that, I was in Kavanaugh freshman year, and that's where I met you. Several of us got together in the freshman halls, and we started coalescing at Morrissey Hall, as I recall. Started to coalesce, but it all really came together at Dillon, which was not to the delight of Father Bristol, our rector. We fondly called him Father Brush because of his haircut. He had kind of a flat top haircut. And we were not the neatest group on campus, and we raised a little hell. For example, we used one of the hallways as a bowling alley. At one point, Father Bristol came in. I roomed with Lavash, Jamie Wareham, came into our room and he said, "You guys live like rats." And that was kind of the inception of this whole crew. But we were very close, and we like to raise a little H. At that point, Notre Dame was known as the 4th Military Academy. We had no girls to keep things a little bit calm. All we knew basically was beer.
And so you all have nicknames. Tell me your nicknames and how you got them.
Well, this is Jim. I have several nicknames, 2 primarily. Jamie, just a pronunciation of Jim or James, and Lavash. Lavash came because I slept a great deal when I was in college. And frequently, TL was my roommate, and he was always in the top bunk because I couldn't climb up there. And I would wrap myself up in a blanket and roll it, kind of curled up in the corner on the lower bunk. And this one fella came by, Dick Piggott, and he thought that I looked a lot like a sea cow over in the corner. And that's what La Vache et la Mer meant.
All right, Blue Bear, you're up. Where did you get yours?
Oh, where did I get mine? Well, we were all in Morrissey Hall before we got to Dillon Hall. And they had Jellystone Park on, and it was a cartoon. You know, here we were studying all kinds of things like organic chemistry and watching television at the same time. And Yogi Bear was in Jellystone Park, and he had this little bear next to him, and he'd go, "Hey, Boo, how are you?" And I go, "Hey, Lavash, it's me, Boo Bear." And I used to mimic everywhere we went. And when Father Pelton used to get up and give us stories, and I'd do Boo Bear's voice from the back and say, "Isn't that interesting from that rector?" Uh-huh. So they called me Boo.
And it stuck.
Yes, indeed.
All right, TL, you're up.
No, I think it's me.
My nickname is the Frog, and I have no idea where that came from.
Ned, how did you get yours, and what's your nickname?
Well, it's Ned. I'm named after my father, Edmund Grant, formerly, and they didn't want to call me Ed. They thought that was too common, so they decided to call me Ned, which hadn't been used much. And that stuck with me, and now everybody knows me as Neddy, Neddy.
How about Floating Eye? Give him a little of that, yeah.
Whatever he drinks, he has a floating eye.
That was alcohol induced.
So tell me about this long-term friendship. What's it been like over the years? How often are you in touch with each other?
Oh.
Ned, what about you?
Neddy.
Neddy.
Oh, yeah. We're frequently in touch with each other. Phone calls during the week. Sometimes even the phone calls came late at night, like 2 or 3 in the morning, just to see how they were doing. We had a reunion back in, I guess, 85, 86 was the first one. And people liked it so much, they insisted on another one. And so Mickey Ryan and his wife, Marie, and my wife, Mary Lou, and I were sort of the organizers of this. We always picked a home game in September because it was warm. And now the request is that we have one every year almost.
As Ned points out, the telephone calls and the support for an awful lot of family things, marriages, funerals, births of children, all that stuff for the entire group has participated in each other's. Now, not everybody is at everything, but it's pretty important, I think, for this length of time.
Some of the friends I have that went to state schools, they're not in touch with anybody, and they're thoroughly amazed to know that this group has been together for almost 64 years. I mean, just stayed together. And not only these formal get-togethers like the reunions, but we contact each other on the phone and via email. In fact, I don't know who was going to talk about this, but we've been Zooming for the COVID year, 2020. How many Zooms, Boo Bear?
34.
34 Zoom.
Right, and two of those are rosaries. We have a couple of members who are on the wane, shall we say, in their final stages of their existence here, and we want to encourage them. And oddly enough, we also have a member, Osh, who is now Father Osh. His wife passed away after a series of cancer, and he had 5 children. And 12 years ago, he was ordained, and we vested him adequately and bought him a chalice and some other things, and he's our chaplain.
What we do share, in my view, is that we do not pass judgment on each other. We've got some divorces, we've got a lot of different things in the group, but with no judgment. And that, I think, is the glue that keeps us together.
That's a beautiful story. What a great way to describe how you've all stayed together for so long. Well, I could talk to you all day long, but I know you have other things to do. And so in closing, I just have one request. At some point in one of your future gatherings, I want to sneak in and have a glass of wine with all of you.
All right.
I'd love to.
That's great. You're on. You're on
our mailing list.
But you could do something for us too, you know.
What's that?
You could keep an eye on our bench, which is outside the Purcell Pavilion, right? And it's on the south side, the entrance to Purcell, and it has all our names on it. We originally dedicated the bench when it was up by the DeBartolo Center. And during the construction, they put it away and hid it. Well, we found out about that, and we had them go in and clean it all up, and they cleaned it for us, and they asked us where they want to put it, and we said that we wanted the sun to come up and hit the plates on the bench so all the names would glimmer. And it was Lavash's idea to get the bench put together, and we all donated and got our names put on it. And that means we're still part of the university physically, and we're still part of the university spiritually. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, in closing, guys like you are true Notre Dame men. And 64 years of friendship and dedication to Notre Dame, you will always be present there. And I just want to say thanks and congratulations on your reunion.
Thank you.
Dolly.
Thank you, Dolly.
So I'm often asked, what's it like to be the university architect at Notre Dame, and are you the first university architect? And I might be that person by title, but the campus really been blessed by the fact that Father Soren was the first university architect and laid the campus out to a plan that we follow to this day. The Notre Dame campus is known for its traditional style of architecture, and it really suggests that the architecture at Notre Dame wants to be timeless and to use the traditional styles, of course, collegiate Gothic, but also classical and Second French Empire, for instance, among the many that are represented on campus, help weave all the buildings together to be a really true concert of architecture, styles, and materials. Thanks to the establishment of the Facilities Committee of the Board in the mid-1990s, direction of the Notre Dame campus really shifted seismically in a positive way. The board really asked us to go back to our collegiate Gothic roots, really established first by the neo-Gothic of the Basilica of Sacred Heart. But of course, the place would become a bit blah or boring if every building was the same and used the collegiate Gothic in almost the same patterns. And so there are times and purposes and reasons that we would deviate from that. And most recently is the wonderful new addition of the Walsh Family Hall of Architecture at the very southern edge of our campus, representative of the classical style given to us by an internationally renowned architect and the Walsh family, really representing the pedagogy of our world-class School of Architecture that teaches the roots of architecture begins in the classical orders. So over the last few years, we've been mindful of opportunities to grow within and densify the campus just a bit. And a good example of that would have been, maybe 10 years ago when we opened Geddes Hall, a building more than 65,000 square feet that sits on a site that once had the small little TV station that was about 7,000 square feet. Yet Geddes Hall feels like it's been there from the beginning. Just a perfect hand in glove fit as it sits proud next to the Hesburgh Library. More recently, we've been doing some other sort of in-campus replacements to take the value of the land and to really try to magnify its purpose for us and its use for us. I'm incredibly blessed to represent 180 men and women in the facilities design and operations team here at Notre Dame. And I can tell you that each and every one of them is excited to come to work every day and have the campus and its facilities, infrastructure, its power plant, its wonderful buildings and grounds and trees and shrubs be their place to work. And it's their attention, their focus, and their mission to keep Notre Dame as beautiful and safe and wonderful as people know it.
Hello there. I'm Ryan Davila, a 2015 graduate and the current Director of Auxiliary Operations for Young ND, the Alumni Association's affinity group for alums aged 32 and younger. In each of the past 2 years, the Alumni Association and the Young ND Board have recognized 12 outstanding young alumni for their dedication and significant achievements in faith, service, learning, and work, the 4 core pillars of the association's mission. These outstanding graduates are known as the Domer Dozen, and they have excelled in healthcare, technology, education, international aid, faith, journalism, military service, global development, and many other fields. We recently caught up with a few of the 2019 and 2020 honorees who, like me, are celebrating their reunion this year virtually. We asked them about their time at Notre Dame and some of their favorite campus memories.
100% Pangborn Hall. And if I didn't give you that answer, I would get 15 calls from friends telling me, how dare you?
I should probably say PETA because that's where I was, but I think South Quad has some really nice dorms.
I have to say Welsh fan, but I'll admit I might be a teeny bit biased.
The best dorm on campus has to be Keough Hall.
Gonna have to go with Keough. I was in Keough, section 4B specifically.
Kavanaugh Hall is definitely the best dorm on campus.
I have to say South. I feel like that kind of like Hogwarts feel.
North.
I'm gonna have to go with North.
Definitely South. And like I said, as someone who was in PETA, I didn't mind taking the trek, even in the snow.
Drum circle. You know, I grew up in South Bend, so we were very familiar with the drum circle. Had the opportunity to show my nieces and nephews.
Going into Notre Dame, I was not even a football fan, but I will say there was nothing like waking up on Saturday morning to the sounds of trumpets and the marching band playing. And so, you know, that's always going to be a favorite tradition for me.
I think the fact that you stay in your dorm and you build a community in the same place over, for me, 4 years, is really wonderful.
Being able to visit the grotto really at any time of the day, I feel like it's just such a special, sacred place.
This is dorky and probably says a lot about me. There's been a lot of construction at the library, and I love checking it out and seeing how it changes.
Praying at the grotto now as I go back and visit campus is definitely probably my favorite thing to do.
Rushing the field after the 2012 Stanford football game. I think it's just it was an exhilarating experience, and it was really fun. I think at the end, when we were doing like the Notre Dame alma mater, I had like my really good friends on one side, and then a football player who was like 4 times my side on the other.
I did meet my wife at Notre Dame junior year, so that's probably going to be the best one.
Meeting my best friend, we lived in the dorm on the 2nd floor next to each other, met probably the first day on campus, and are still best friends.
I really struggled my first year at Notre Dame, realizing that if you work hard, you reach out to other people to help you through that process, that you end up where you're supposed to be, and you will make it through, whatever difficulty you're dealing with.
The importance of community. That was one of the biggest reasons I wanted to go there. And so, having the opportunity to be an American Studies major, I had the opportunity to go out in the community and get involved in a couple of local organizations.
Being a leader comes in many different forms, and it's not just telling other people what to do. It's also about internal work.
I did not take my faith super seriously at Notre Dame, but a lot of the seeds that were laid while I was at Notre Dame and a lot of the people I got to meet are the reason why my faith is a super important part of who I am now.
While the dome or dozen may only be a few years old, the tradition of Notre Dame alumni changing the world and working as forces for good is as old as the university itself. Our next guest is a perfect example of that. Dr. Brian Donnelly is a 1986 Notre Dame graduate, and after attending medical school at the University of Michigan, he began working at the Cleveland Clinic in 1996. In 2018, Brian was named the CEO of the brand new Cleveland Clinic London and is joining us today from the United Kingdom. Brian, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
Dolly, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So the last year's been a challenging one for all of us, but especially for those in healthcare. Tell us a little bit about the processes and the difficulties of opening a clinic abroad during a pandemic.
So, in many ways, I think all of us, as you said, have had challenges in many different ways, and we've had those too in healthcare. And we also had them here in the United Kingdom. I think, though, one way to look at it is challenges, but I'll tell you, actually, the other way to look at it and how we looked at it here is actually opportunities and ways to learn new things. And so there have been challenges. The United Kingdom early on had some significant impact from the COVID pandemic. The vaccination program has worked out well, and things are now starting to improve with some ease down. But in many ways, there's been a tremendous number of learnings over this period of the pandemic, which is helping us shape how we bring Cleveland Clinic London to life, which we will bring the healthcare system up. It'll open in 16 weeks with our outpatient center and 36 weeks with our hospital, which we're very excited about.
That's a lot to be excited about. Over the last 25 years with Cleveland Clinic, you continually took on more challenges, more leadership, bigger responsibilities. What made you decide to take on this challenge?
I think it's the incredible privilege throughout the 25 years at Cleveland Clinic. And even, from my start of leaving Notre Dame and working down a pathway of medicine, the privilege to be a part of people's lives and have some impact in a positive way on those. Early on, it was as an orthopedic surgeon for me, but then each different level through the Cleveland Clinic, and now this job here, CEO in Cleveland Clinic London, has really just been a tremendous privilege to continue to be able to learn new things and to have some positive influence in people's lives. And so when Mary and I, my wife Mary, also a Notre Dame graduate in 1986, proud to say, from Lewis Hall, when we made this decision to come over here, it was actually just the opportunity to have an incredible life experience and meet fascinating people and people that are passionate, like our Cleveland Clinic family as we grow it here, who are passionate about helping others. And isn't that, probably what Mary and I learned and really saw during our 4 years at Notre Dame.
Well, so what's your plan for the first year? How do you hope to see it grow? What do you hope will happen in the first year the clinic is open?
Well, the big thing for us and what we're doing over here is we make it really a real strong statement that we're not here to bring the Cleveland Clinic to London. We're here to bring the best of what we've done over 100 years and integrate with that, with the best of UK healthcare. And as we bring those together, that forms a new model of care. So in that way, in our first year here, we're really excited about bringing a new model of healthcare in a new model where we brought learnings from a fabulous healthcare ecosystem which exists here in the United Kingdom and bringing some of the best of the US healthcare system.
And where are you right now? Where physically?
Yeah, so our hospital actually is right over my shoulder. There's still some scaffolding up. We're slowly bringing that down as the construction is nearing completion. And we're located right behind Buckingham Palace. And so we bought this building, tore it down, and then built the new 184-bed hospital with 29 ICU rooms right behind Buckingham Palace.
What a fabulous place to be. And then in your spare time, and I say that tongue in cheek, when you're not doing this, you also teach a class at the London Gateway program, right? And it's empathy in healthcare.
It is. And so it's been a, tremendous experience. I remember, my time at Notre Dame, many people that reached out and gave me experiences that I found very valuable. And so it was a wonderful chance to be a part of the Gateway program here. And we teach a class, unfortunately, it was not taught this past year, but teach a class on what we call the business of empathy. And it's about healthcare. And it actually, as you know, Dolly, and I think all of us know, I learned way more in that class than any of the students would ever learn from us. And it's just been really exciting to be around the Notre Dame students.
What do you see in the Notre Dame students? Are they different than when you and I were in school?
I see a lot of commonalities. I think the difference is, I think they're much smarter than, at least much smarter than I ever was at that age. I'll tell you, actually, just this week, we also have two Notre Dame interns that when they're here in London, they do an internship with us at Cleveland Clinic London. They did it virtually this year. Just this past week, we finished the internship, and one of the interns, a Notre Dame Rising junior, it was one of the most phenomenal presentations that I've seen. She was there with confidence, presented the whole program that she developed, and it's actually going to make us better. It's a supplier diversity program that we're bringing to the UK. I see the same passion and the same commitment to service. And that's what really excites me, to see that Father Jenkins, the leadership continues that unbelievable culture of service to others.
That's great. And so it's your reunion year. And since we're talking about reunion, I'd love to hear, I think everyone would love to hear about your journey to Notre Dame. How did you pick Notre Dame and why Notre Dame?
Yeah, so I'm the youngest in my family, and I've an older sister and then two older brothers, and both my brothers went to Notre Dame. And so it was natural for me to be interested in Notre Dame after going to many Notre Dame football programs, football games, and basketball games. And so that's probably how I ended up picking Notre Dame. The big challenge actually was not so much my interest in Notre Dame. The big challenge I had was my one brother lived in Dillon, the other lived in Alumni. And back then we were able to pick which dorm. So that actually was the intensity of the decision of whether to go with Dillon or Alumni. And back then, I think more people disliked Dillon, which is why I chose Dillon then.
So you lived in Dillon all 4 years?
I did. Lived in Dillon for 4 years.
And so what are some of your fond memories and favorite times?
Yeah, certainly a ton of memorable fun times, but maybe from a serious standpoint, just to me and for Mary, it's just an incredible time of being around such committed, well-intended, passionate people. It's the highest quality of people in a concentrated area that I've been around. And so those 4 years to me were very impressionable. Obviously, my mother and father had a big impact, but to take that foundation and have an opportunity from age 18 to 22 to spend it with 4 years of just amazing people is something that I continue to treasure and be very appreciative for the impact it's had on me, both personally and professionally.
And you and your roommate both became doctors, is that right?
We did actually. I was randomly put, I would say the two really important days for me at Notre Dame actually were the first day and the third day. First day because I was randomly put together with this roommate who was from East Lansing, Michigan, John Mira. And then John actually and I lived all 4 years together in Dillon. And then we actually lived together for 3 years at Michigan Medical School. And it actually wasn't until us living together for 7 years until I got married to the person I met on the third day of college, which was Mary, that I switched roommates. And I've had Mary as my roommate now, I guess, for the last 30 some years.
That's a pretty good track record.
I've been very lucky.
So you got your undergraduate degree here at Notre Dame. You went to Michigan for med school. Who do you cheer for when the Irish play the Wolverines?
God, Jolly, I was hoping you'd ask that question. It was a great time to be at Michigan Medical School because Lou Holtz was a coach, and I think we won every year but one. So it was a great time. There's no question who we cheer for. We're deep down passionate Notre Dame fans and continue to be.
So your blood will always flow green.
Always
or
flow.
Blue and gold.
It will always flow Notre Dame.
So what are a few of the lessons as we close up? What are a few of the lessons that you still employ, you still think about from your time at Notre Dame?
I think like some of the things that some of the lessons from Notre Dame and things I learned, which I don't think I fully realized I learned, to be honest with you. And it's not until I move on and you reflect back. But I think it's about words of curiosity, words of humility, words of integrity. And when I talk to you about being around high quality people, I think it's those values and the people at Notre Dame, and certainly in my experience and Mary's experience, to be around that, it absolutely has to impact and shape you. And so I think those are the lessons that I take out of Notre Dame is, humility, curiosity, integrity, passion for others, service. Those are the lessons. And that's, as you said earlier, those are the lessons I think that are still there. That's what I see in the students of today. Just a wonderful culture.
Well, Dr. Brian Donnelly, know that all of us at Notre Dame are so unbelievably proud of you, that you learn those lessons, that you are putting them into action in the work that you're doing in healthcare. Notre Dame, you're among Notre Dame's best, and we really appreciate it.
That's very nice of you to say, but I'm certainly appreciative to you, Dolly, and everyone at Notre Dame who continues to foster that culture.
Sick on deck, the other half below, singing glory.
Celebrating her 15th reunion this spring is Molly Huddle, a 2006 grad who made her mark in track and cross country at Notre Dame and is now one of the top American women in distance running. A 10-time All-American with the Irish, Molly has set 7 American records, competing in 2 Olympic Games in London and Rio, and is set to compete for her spot in this summer's delayed games in Tokyo. She's joining us tonight from her training home base of Providence, Rhode Island. Welcome, Molly.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. And I can't believe it's a 15-year reunion already.
Oh, I know, it goes so fast. I think all of us feel that way. Well, one of the major events impacted by the pandemic, of course, was the Olympics scheduled to take place in Tokyo last summer. A year later, here we are again, and you're preparing for the Olympic trials in the 10,000 meters in just a few weeks in Eugene, Oregon. Has the pandemic and the delay in the Olympics impacted the training for this event for you?
Yeah, there are definitely areas that were impacted. I will say, as a distance runner, I feel lucky because I feel like we're probably the sport with the least amount of technical needs. We don't have a lot of equipment that we need. And so, most parts of the US didn't shut down the way Europe did, where you couldn't even go outside to run. So like we could always go out and run. We could go to the back roads and just get our workouts in. But that being said, at this level, we're used to like maximizing everything and trying to really just like make every scenario like optimized. And this year was all about compromise. So you do feel it. You feel the loss of, probably you didn't get as much body work done as like I would normally get, or, you didn't get to do workouts on the track and sharpen your speed because you were on the road more. And there were definitely some compromises there. Of course, we missed competing. That was probably the biggest difficulty, was trying to get competitions together. So I think every athlete felt it at this level, but I think I will say, as a distance runner, like I saw a lot of people out running that have never run before. So I think running was the easiest thing you could do.
Sure, absolutely. So how are you feeling with all the disruption and the compromise? How are you feeling as you head into the trials?
I'm definitely feeling that a little bit. I'm an older athlete. I never thought I'd be competing. I thought I'd be going to my 15-year reunion retired. So I'll be 37 if I make the team in August. So I feel, as an older athlete, that, I need more body work, not less. And I need, missing that really kind of caught up to me this year. But I think, I have a lot of experience to draw on. And I think, actually, this year is going to be a really deep year. So I'm going to need to use all that tactical experience and just like really all that kind of like sports psychology I've learned over the years and put that to good use.
So deep in terms of the quality of the field that you'll be competing with?
Yes. Yeah. It's a very, my event is really deep this year on the women's side.
Now, at the risk of getting ahead of ourselves, we're all pulling for you and know that you're going to do great and make your way over to Tokyo. What are the expectations around the games this summer compared to the previous games that you've participated in?
Yeah, there's just so much uncertainty. We're seeing these plans were laid years in advance for training camps, like where we're going to go for a training camp. And there's just a lot of details to fill in there about how early you go over and who can go with you, especially the technical events. They really rely on coaches to like give them feedback as they're competing. And all of that is up in the air. We might have to do without all of that, which is what we're used to. So it's going to be a year of flexibility. You're going to have to be flexible. We're probably going to be quarantining. If you make the team, you're probably going to be quarantining. So training will be more difficult when you're there, leading into your event. So just a lot of little things that you're going to have to just go with the flow on this year.
Absolutely. Well, looking back now a little bit, so you mentioned 15 years and it's gone by so fast. You were a 10-time All-American at Notre Dame, 7 times in track and field, 3 times in cross country. What drew you to the program and to Notre Dame in general?
Well, Notre Dame was something our whole family, our family was a Notre Dame family because my dad went there, my uncle went there. So I always watched the football games growing up. And, we were the first people in the theater when Rudy came out when I was in grade school. So it was kind of always like in my mind. But then running came into the picture and I loved the team when I visited. I loved the men and women on the team that I met. on my recruiting trip. And so running was kind of my key to getting into Notre Dame.
Wonderful. Now, the track program has made some significant strides since your time here on campus, particularly in the distance program. Molly Seidel, a 2016 grad, 4-time national champion. She'll be in the Olympics this year in the marathon. And current senior star, Yared Nuguse on the men's side, winning 2 national championships. And he'll be competing to participate in the Olympics in the 1500 meters. Lots of great accomplishments at the conference level, at the national level. Tell us a little bit about your impression of the state of the program, where it is today.
Yeah, it's always so exciting to cheer for Notre Dame when they're, the men were on the podium in cross country, and Yared has won national championships, and Molly was winning national championships. And we have some athletes making, they're at regionals probably next week on the men and women's side. So it's always cool to cheer for them on the big stage. And it's great to see them kind of carrying that torch. I know the women's team was 3rd when I was there 1 year, and the men's team was 3rd when I was there 1 year. So it's cool to see like those podium positions being carried through. And Yared's been really exciting. I've loved rooting for him. I think big things could come this summer. So it's always great to root for a fellow. We'll see how many Notre Dame runners we can get on the Olympic team basically in June.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be exciting. I know we'll all be watching. Now your husband, Kurt Benninger, is also a Notre Dame grad, 2008 graduate, and he was an All-American as well in middle distance. So has he played a key role in your training over the years?
He has. He's been really supportive. He ran for a few years after school, and then spent the rest of the time supporting my career basically. And so sometimes that required him pacing me in a workout on the track. He still does that today. It's getting harder for him, but he still gets out there and drags me through a few laps. And he does a lot of logistical help with my planning our yearly training blocks. So like he organizes the altitude trips. He goes to Europe with me when, we would travel to Europe, and help set up the accommodations, help monitor workouts when I'm away from my coach. He's my strength coach. Technically, he has a strength certification. So yeah, just all, and emotional support, of course, as my husband. So all the factors, he's wearing many hats with my running career, and I couldn't have gotten this far without him just like fully supporting what I do. So very, very grateful for that. We're a good team, I think.
It sure sounds like it. That's wonderful. Now, last question for you here, Molly. You played a key role in the creation of the female runner emoji. How'd that come about? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's kind of a funny factoid about me. I don't know how directly how much of that was from me, but I did do a formal submission to the way emojis are added to the official keyboard is through the Unicode consortium. And I was on break from running for a few weeks, and I just thought I wanted a fun project to do. And this was 2015, I think, 2015. So yeah, there was not a female runner emoji at that time, and that would have been my most used emoji. So I just saw the need there.
Wonderful. I love it. That's great. Well, Molly, thank you for your time today to help us celebrate the class of 2006 and all of our reunion classes. Good luck in Oregon, and looking ahead to Tokyo. You have the best wishes of all of your fellow Domers. So we know that you're going to represent us well and do great. Thanks, Molly.
Yeah, thanks for your support, and go Irish.
The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame win the national championship. This will do it. Notre Dame is going to the Frozen Four. And the Fighting Irish will dance on to the championship game. They have upset Connecticut as number 1 goes down. Syracuse undefeated no more. Taylor. He stopped.
Jones straight back. Teo grabbed it. Teo may have gotten an interception.
Swung in. It's a good-looking ball. The header's in. It's O'Malley. Well, for the first time in their history, they are the 2013 NCAA Men's College Soccer National Champions.
One of the best in the world, Garrick Meinhardt, now a 2-time NCAA champ.
Yes, easily a new American record. An NCAA championship.
For Notre Dame senior Molly Seidel, she's going to accomplish what she set out for at the beginning of the season.
Lee Kiefer of Notre Dame is an NCAA champion.
toward the end zone. Touchdown. Will Fuller.
He tied it up. Off the post and in. The Motor City Hitman delivers the knockout punch.
They score! Notre Dame to the Frozen Four. Andrew Ogilvy.
Or does not have an answer, but Naguse does. Yared Naguse trying to catch Kiprotich, and he may have done it.
Let's it go. Oh, Collington with a block.
Look, coverage on the end.
What a grab. Larkin still on his feet. Happy New Year, Irish.
Left side, Morrison walks into, he scores! Cam Morrison wins it.
He's over the line. He's at the left side. He sends it in front for everything. They score! Jake Evans scores! 5-hole, 3.7 seconds left.
Ogunbowale for the win.
Good! Enrique Ogunbowale wins the national championship for Notre Dame.
Is that the play that will seal the playoff bid for Fighting Irish?
Well, that about wraps up our time together this evening. We hope you enjoyed our reunion celebration and hope it helped to lift your spirits and bring a piece of our beloved campus to you in lieu of being able to be together as a Notre Dame family. As a reminder, we invite you to come back for special alumni gatherings later this year before the USC and North Carolina football games in October. Be sure to stay tuned to your email and reunion.nd.edu for more details as those plans formalize. Thank you again for tuning in tonight. We look forward to hopefully seeing you very soon. Until then, take care, God bless, and go Irish.
Notre Dame.